Good morning, everyone. Lesley Myrick here, interior designer and business coach with Nancy Quinn. And today we talking money with the fabulous Megan Dahle. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning, Lesley. It is so good to be back with you.
I am glad. I love our conversations because you are one of the few human beings that actually make me want to talk about money and it sounds fun. And
Aw,
we all know
thank
as business
you.
owners, there are the unicorn designers who get money, who love it. I mean, I love
Yeah,
money, but the numbers and the money management is stuff that I hid from for a long time, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So I
yeah.
am excited to hear your gentle and loving perspective. And
Aw.
specifically, we're talking about reports, financial reports, how to
Mhm.
simplify, and the key numbers to focus on. So, yes, exactly. Kick us
Hmm.
off, get us started. What is one report that we don't need to worry about that we probably think we should be worrying about? Is there a specific
All
one?
of them.
Yes, that's the answer I wanted. Okay, talk to
Okay,
me about that.
so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Like first, I want to gently remind you that reports are just a translation of a perceived fact into a number format, right? Like numbers are just trying to grasp what happened and put it on a sheet and say, here was what happened, right?
Okay, here's what
So
happened.
sometimes our intuition is so much better than looking at a spreadsheet
Ooh.
because it's a language we don't understand. So let's break it down into the things that you need to know. And
Okay,
then let's find out if translating it into a number would be helpful or not, right? Okay.
okay.
So there are 4 outcomes inside your business that matter.
Yes.
Okay. It is the outreach, where you are out there celebrating what you do, being proud of what you do to the people who are receptive to that and who need your services, who are raising their hand. That's the outcome. People are raising their hand. And there's
Okay.
a lot of activities that you're doing inside that process, inside that you can measure. Like, how many new people did I talk to? Hey, I went to a
Mhm.
networking thing, and how many cards did I give out? How many inquiries did I have? And so there might be numbers that you track there.
Okay.
It might be like, oh, my stack is shorter. I had people who used pebbles in a jar, right? There's no
That's
numbers in
cute.
pebbles in a jar. They could just see it. Or they would put a rubber band from one hand to the other because they had a goal of talking to 5 people a day, right? Bracelets, just flipping the bracelets on others.
Yep.
Okay. So that's a function inside your business. How many people are raising their hand? And then we move into the sales of those people that are raising their hand. How am I taking care of them and
Okay.
understanding their needs and making an invitation? Am I understanding their needs? Am I putting something in front of them that I'm really proud of? And am I convinced that this is the solution for them and making that invitation? Am I actively making that invitation? So many times we measure this sales as the income statement, like how much
Yeah.
money is in. But in reality, for interior designers, that's not necessarily reflective because we're
Mm,
invoicing in phases.
yeah.
Like it doesn't really necessarily match with the sales. So it's more about the invitations that you're making. Again, something that you can measure with pebbles. So you can measure with tick marks on a chalkboard, like things that you can measure that am I still doing okay? For like my beginners, I work with Inside Entre Architect, and every month we go through a different thing. And I'm just like, what does it feel like to measure
Mm,
these things every month? And is it the right thing? Because it's going to be different for everybody. So we started with a bunch of different statistics that we put out on the spreadsheet. And it's like, okay, tick mark for every one, or put in a real number for every new project you started. How many projects did you start this month? And that's how they're kind of gauging their sales. So they can see over time, we have, October, November, December, does that number change? Is it always the same? Do you see any patterns?
mhm.
So it's much gentler than an income statement.
Yeah.
And then we move into the third thing that you need to know is like, how much can I actually get done? Okay. How many hours do I actually have in a month to work on these projects? How many hours do my employees have to work on the different phases of projects? And is that coherent with how many sales I've been making? Do I have way more capacity
That's the
than
word
what
I,
I
we're talking capacity here, right? Like, what
Yes.
can we handle? What is our capacity as us, as our team, as our business?
Right, right. And so now we have like how much are people asking me to get done
Mm-hmm.
versus how much can we get done? And is there an imbalance? That's why these two numbers are so important next to each other,
Okay.
because we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a bind where we are promising way more than what we can actually deliver. Like our sales are way up here and our capacity is way down here.
Yeah.
Or we're not selling that much and our capacity is way up here. Like we have all of this
There's
extra
a gap.
time on our hands. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a gap. So it's more not so much in a silo of, yeah, I've got great sales.
Cool. What does that
Cool.
mean?
Yeah, or oh, I've built this great team and all of these processes. It's important what these two numbers, what these two, I say numbers, what these two
Values?
values
Yeah.
look like next to each other. What do people want from me and what am I capable of delivering?
Yeah.
I mean, like to have and then finally, like it's going to be a number, but it's going to be expenses. You can pull this one off of your bank statement. You can pull this
Yeah.
one off of your income statement, whatever. Like how much cash is going out
Okay.
during like it's a cash game and it's a cash game. Sure, it's a number, but we can just pop that one next to our revenue and make sure that the cash going out is less than our revenue coming in. And so like these
Yeah.
four numbers, and if you're like, look at your balance sheet. Okay, what are the pieces off the balance sheet that go where?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Well, not much, unless we're going to be doing a forward forecast. It's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
The income statement only covers like two of these numbers, kind of, depending on your revenue recognition. And now you're getting into accounting jargon. Can we?
Yeah, I know. Like, okay. So the last one, the expenses out, that should be fairly easy for us to find as designers. There
Yep,
are, assuming you have some sort of financial tracking in place, which if you don't, please book a design strategy session with
yeah,
Nancy or I and we'll help you, or with Megan.
yeah.
But
And in
okay,
the
let's talk
meantime,
about
I'm
those two
sorry.
middle numbers. What's that?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to pause right there. Like, and
Yeah.
if you don't know those numbers and like you're in emergency mode, your bank statement says in one number at the top of the statement every month how much cash went out. It's
Yep.
that easy.
There you go. I love that you made, yeah, you take the scary out of it. So that one I think is fairly easy to find. What I
Mhm.
want to know now though is those two middle numbers, capacity versus what's the other one? I'm sorry. Like
Sales.
the sales. How does one get that data and how do you recommend people keep track of this? Because I know we all hear the cliche phrase like if you don't measure it, you can't improve it.
Yep.
Like, so how do we measure that?
Okay. So sales are sales, right? And
And
the
when you say
thing
sales, you're talking like number of clients or dollar value coming in
it's going to
sales?
be dollar value coming
Okay.
in or number of clients. Like if you're starting baby steps and that dollar value seems really intimidating to figure out at this
Mhm.
point, let's just start with clients coming in.
Okay.
Right? If you're starting from nowhere, knowing how many new projects you started this month is going to be more valuable than the specific dollar amount right now because you're not used to using specific dollar amounts and you're not used to using anything at all. So let's just
Okay.
look at how many new projects you're starting.
Okay. So sales, that number could be dollars or how many new projects kicked off this month? What about
Yeah.
capacity? How do you quantify? Are we talking just physical hours or is there another metric that you use?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. Like it is going to depend on your business. And I'm not going to sit here and prescribe without knowing what's
Yeah.
happening in your business, right? Like I get this picture. Do you remember that I Love Lucy episode where she's working on the chocolate
The
line?
chocolates. Yeah. And
The
they're just
chocolates and the
flying
chocolates
at
come
her
back
and she
and they don't know
can't
what to
keep
do
up
with them
with
and they're
it.
just like flying and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Iconic.
it's like that. Like the sales are coming in and there's just so much. So
Yeah.
one is like the vibe. Let's just gut check on the vibe of how much work you are doing right now in your staff. Are they like,
Yeah.
I can't do anymore. I can't do anymore. Like there's your vibe check. Your capacity is like
Mhm.
running redlining right now. And we either need to slow down on what we're feeding into your capacity or we need to ramp up your capacity.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just do a vibe check before we like start dumping numbers on you.
I
Now,
like that. And
yeah.
that's I'm assuming for a lot of designers, that's going to be enough. Like, when things are off kilter, when you're having a lull and going, oh, I have so much more capacity and the phone isn't ringing, or I can't
Mhm.
keep working every night and weekend to keep up with this.
Yeah,
You know,
you know. You know.
you know.
You know, and, like, if this is where you're at, that is actually a very exciting place to be because it means your vision is getting closer and you're gonna need
Mm,
growth. And this might be a time when you bring in the experts. You bring in the experts that's like, "Okay, now we need to get really scientific on our capacity, and what does that mean?" And that's when we're going to bring in the numbers, but we're like,
yeah.
if you're working with me, we're gonna do it super gently, and we're gonna start
Yeah.
with your intuition, and we're going to match what's happening to how you can see and translate it. Eventually, it's gonna get to numbers, but in a way that you understand it, like, "Okay, I'm only 20% billable as the owner of the business. Like that's
Yeah.
because I'm out doing the other things and I have an assistant designer that's 70% billable. I have, a procurement specialist that's also my bookkeeper. She's like 40% billable. Like what does that mean as that much billable? How much time
Mhm.
do they have during the month? Now we're getting into the numbers, but only when we need it. Only when we need
Yeah.
to get that many more resources because we are growing and we need to have those tools to look in on those different functions. Like you're in a captain's chair and you're swirling around and like, okay, let's take a look at capacity.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
let's
that
take a
takes
look at
time to
sales.
get there, and I love what you're saying, Megan, this idea of putting, like, a vibe check on the numbers and the feel in your business, because I think I've been there too, and we see this a lot with our designers that we coach is they get scared and turn a blind eye to it. They don't pay it like, they're trying to ignore the vibe or the feeling, and
Mhm.
they're just like, I don't wanna deal with it," because they think something is off, and they think to solve it, it has to be scary or it's too much for them to try to figure out how to solve it. But if you can
Right.
just start with these high level, like what's the capacity? How many new clients do we have? How are we feeling about all of that? What money's going out? Is that like, is this an alarming number or are we okay with this number? Like
Yeah.
that's probably a lot better than many people are doing right now with in terms of keeping their eyes open on their
Yeah.
business numbers. That'd
And
be
I
a
also,
huge improvement.
yeah. And I also think that creative people, designers especially, almost feel like they need to abandon their intuition when it comes to the more scientific side of business, right? And that's
Wow. Yeah.
like you go look at the book this business section, they're written by men, and it's win, lose, win, lose, win, lose scenarios, and how do
So
you
when
win
is
in
your
business?
book coming out, Megan? Oh, she's making a face. Okay. I will be the first one to buy it. Oh, that's exciting.
Oh
If
my
that's a
gosh.
little hint of something to
Oh
come.
my gosh. Like, okay, side note, I love paper crafting. I love it. I like my me and my silhouette, my little cameo, we were always cutting stuff out and okay, you'll see it. You'll see it. But I made myself a little book cover as as my little like thing and yeah, it's so cute.
Okay, I'm excited. I will read your financial book, and I think this industry needs you and people like
Huh.
you who make this gentle and intuitive and visual because that's how we think. That's how we look at things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So give yourself a break. Like the business world, like the business world.
Yeah. The bro world of finance, make more money. Yeah. That doesn't, sometimes you need that slap in the face. Sometimes that advice can be good. Often it's scary and overwhelming, and it just sort of forces us to turtle even more and not look at it. But if you can just say, hey, I'm not feeling great about my money. It's like something feels off with the vibe right now, with my workload. Like, let's start just keeping an eye on this and seeing what little tweaks can we make to improve things. Like that's
Yeah.
going to help your finances. It doesn't just
Right.
have to be about balance sheets and profit and loss
Right.
statements and just looking at the black and white numbers because that isn't, like you said, that isn't always great
Right.
information. My P&L I kind of get at this point.
Mhm.
My balance sheet I'm still like I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this information. I'm like, thank you for providing it, bookkeeper. Money. Like that's all I got out of there is like there's money somewhere in
Yeah.
this business.
Right.
Fabulous.
Right. There's money somewhere, which is like we can talk about that when you get to that like need, when you have that
Yes.
need.
And
But
that's
in
it.
the
Don't overdo it.
meantime,
Like, Figure out what you need now. And I think start small, but just open
Yeah,
your eyes to it is
right.
really important.
And yeah, and I think the other side of that is not defaulting into a realm of fear where it's like, I just need to go sell more. I just
Yeah.
need to go sell more.
Because you might not.
Might not.
You might not. If you don't have the capacity.
You might not. There might be some really big wins right there sitting in your capacity.
Ooh, okay. This is good. Will you quickly go over those 4 key numbers again before we wrap up? Because this
Yes.
is juicy, good stuff.
Yes, my cat was on my lap first, so I got to make sure he doesn't scratch me. Okay, so say hi, Herman. Say hi. Hi. Okay, outreach. What am I doing to get people to raise their hand, and where am I collecting them? Outreach.
Yep.
Sales. How am I nurturing them and inviting them into my world, and inviting them to experience my product?
Yep.
Capacity. How am I taking care of them? How am I delivering on the promise of why they came in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
In stewardship, how am I taking care of my resources, my time and my cash? How
That's
am I
it.
stewarding them? That's it.
I love it.
If you can have a vibe check on each one of those, the next step is going to be learning how to monitor them, marinate
Mhm.
the numbers, and then finally we get become an expert as necessary. So
Fabulous. That is such a gentle, loving start into your business finances. And I can tell you, Megan approaches this so differently from anyone I've heard talking about money. Plus, your branding's real cute, which as a designer, I
thanks.
appreciate. So if you have money questions, need some support, please check out her website, megandahle.com. She is a wealth of information in a gentle, loving, unscary way, which I very much appreciate. Megan, thank you. I always love hearing from you. And this is my gears are turning of maybe I need to be setting up a monthly vibe check, not just looking at the paperwork my bookkeeper sends me, but keeping an eye on the pulse and how I'm feeling and just being okay with like knowing that that's valid to check in with those feels about things and use that as a barometer. Use that to measure and to start seeing what might need to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Megan.
You're
We will
welcome.
see you back here next month.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Everyone.